Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Breaking Bad Careers. We are your hosts, Coach Eli Beaumont, Coach Peter Hill, and today we have a very special guest, Dongchen Shan, who is joining us all the way from London. And we'll get into allowing her to give her self-introduction. But today's episode is really on the topic of resilience, particularly resilience during an international job search, and what it really takes in order to achieve your dream of relocating, getting work authorization, and pushing through a lot of the self-doubts and barriers that typically prevent us from sometimes moving forward towards our dreams and our goals. So I'm one of your hosts, Coach Eli Beaumont. I'm a 5-time career changer and co-founder of Your Career Strategy with my partner, Peter Hill. I've worked all over the world supporting thousands of individuals making career transitions across hundreds of different countries. And I've supported teams at the Flatiron School, Holt International Business School, and thousands of job seekers and students who are looking to get into that first job, whether it's in tech or in business. And now we have the pleasure of continuing to support thousands of others as they make transitions all over the world in finding fulfilling and purposeful careers. Peter, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, right on. So what's up, everybody? Really good to be back on Breaking Bad Careers. We love doing these lives on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. Occasionally, it's just me and Eli shooting the breeze on some interesting career development topics. And sometimes we have guests like today. And today's guest, Dongchen, is one of my favorite stories of tenacity and persistence and overcoming many obstacles. So we'll dive into that in a moment. Excuse me. As Coach Eli mentioned, I'm Peter Hill. I'm an international career coach, also multiple-time career changer, not only with regard to industry and functional area, but also geography. So been really blessed to have been working in Japan for about 5 years, China for 9 years, and 2.5 years in London, over where Dongchen is, and also, making a positive impact on the lives and careers of thousands, helping them along their quest for more meaningful work in their lives. So that's a bit about me. Let's move away from us and let's focus on our guest today, Dongchen. Maybe if you could just give a brief introduction of yourself to our listeners.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dongchen. I come from China, as you can tell from my name and my accent. I studied in Holt International Business School from 2013 to 2016 and graduated in 2016 summer, then joined BDO LLP and stayed in BDO LLP. And there are two interesting aspects of my story is I had a finance degree and now I'm working in technology. And the second bit is I was an international student and I require visa sponsorship to stay in the UK. I understand it's a bit easier to stay in the UK than US, because US you have to go through basically the lottery system or something similar like that. I'm not an expert on that, but in the UK it's quite difficult to find a job that sponsor your visa. And I managed to get one of the visa sponsorship in 2016. So stayed in the country. And now I have done my 5 years and almost got my indefinite leave to remain in 2 months' time.
Heck yeah, that is so cool. That's such a milestone to have been there now for 5 years. And we just know that so many individuals that we have worked with in the past, some of your peers, even from Holt International Business School, had this goal or this dream to be able to stay in the UK. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about, or at least our audience would love to hear a little bit more about the journey that got you to the opportunity to get the work authorization or the offer for employment with work authorization. If you wouldn't mind elaborating a little bit on that journey.
I think I'm one of the person that always plan ahead. Like I think Peter, you remember, I graduated in 2016 August, and we started job hunting in 2015 September.
That's right.
Yeah, that's about the time. So it's Like I planned almost a year and a half or like a year probably ahead, and then I send out, I think, definitely above 200 job applications. I know it sounds mad at the moment. It still sounds mad to me. But if I think at that time, yes, every day after school, every day after my class, I went back home is job application time. So either I'm doing a test, I'm doing a mathematics test or doing like a reasoning test or whatever test they send me to do, or I'm just filling in application forms. I don't want to go back to that stage anymore. Like it's a painful experience for myself. I'm sorry. Like I hope I will never ever need to do it again, and I do hope all the audience here will never have to go through that process.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we originally met in London, and so for our viewers and listeners, the context is that Eli and I were both working at Holt International Business School in the Career Development Center, and we were supporting undergraduate students, and so we had an office on the second floor of the campus, and we did our best to market our services to all the students, and we were trying to help as many students as possible and bring them into our door and try to help them make a better career decision and have a better outcome after they graduated, right? And Dongchen was one of those students who took us up on our offer. And I remember very, very clearly that, you were one of, a small population of students who would come to us on a regular basis, right? So
it's sort of in a way that's in that environment, because I understand it's very difficult for people in their 19s and 20s to start to think about what career I want. I understand that, like, especially for undergrad students, they don't want to think about that. They want to enjoy their life in their undergrad degree.
Yeah.
And I'm just one of the weirdos who will start to think I want to find a job right after.
Oh man, I think you call yourself like a weirdo in this situation. Maybe it's an outlier, right? Just due to the fact that you had the foresight and the fortitude and actually the discipline to want to focus on these things, right? And I do think that, sure, that might make you an outlier in the situation, but there are more than thousands and thousands of students in a similar position right now who are also trying to determine and figure out what it is that they might like to do, and that are struggling with the feeling of rejection after not hearing back from some of the applications. And you mentioned having done 200 back in the day, not to take you back to those timeframes that you want to go back to or you don't want to go back to, but if we could ask you just to dig back in and just kind of share a little bit about what drove you to continue to apply, right? You could have just kind of put your hands up and said, all right, well, I guess, this isn't going to work out. I've tried hard enough. No one's getting back to me. And then allow your inner voice to say, Dongchen, like, no one wants you. You're not going to get work authorization. You're not enough. You're not getting the job opportunities at these companies. You're not progressing past certain stages of the interview process. Why not just give up and go back to China? Like, what made you keep going?
I think for me is I want to prove myself to my parents, and later on just find that's a very stupid thing to do. Because at that moment, just think about a 20 years old girl that's finally gained her freedom to not being watched all the time by her parents. And I'm like, I don't want to lose that freedom immediately after graduation. I want to prove my parents that I can actually do something. Because that's sort of me growing up, that my parents are always like, you're going to this school. I'm like, no, I'm not going to that school. I'm going to another school, and I am happy to take the entry exam for that school. So I'm always that type of person, and I decide where I want to be. So I think you guys both know I have family business back home, and sort of my safety net is if I didn't find any job, I'll just go back to work for my dad, which probably seems like the easiest way. But at that moment, for me, it feels like a failure if I do that. If I go back to my dad, it feels like I'm a failure. So I just keep going, keep applying, sending another 100 job applications. And also, don't worry, like you won't get any. I'm not saying you won't get anyone back. Like you won't get like any response from the company. You probably for like 100 applications, you get like 10 back. You hear 10. That's probably it. I think that's a very high ratio already. I mean, at least for me. For other people, they might just only apply for one job and got it. For me, is if I apply 100 jobs, if I heard from like 10 of them back, I'm happy. It's a pretty high ratio for me.
It's a pretty high ratio for anyone. I think the average rate of response is somewhere, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember it being somewhere around 2%.
Yeah, it's about right. It'd be anywhere between, depending on, whether it's a growth industry or not, and depending on whether you're changing careers or not, it could be anywhere from 2 to 10%. Yeah.
And also, I think there's a point that I want to mention as well. This probably apply in the US as well, but it's more of a UK thing. That people post job advert is not only for the job hunting, it's not only for recruiting new people. There are different reasons for the company to post job advert. Because in order to give work authorization, in order to give work visa out, they have to advertise the job for a certain amount of days. So for example, if they have an internal candidate that they have already secured the offer, in order to give this person work permit, they have to advertise the job for like 28 days. So sometimes if you don't hear anything from them or you just got like automatically rejected, it might be this reason. So it's nonsense, I know, but just don't let that to ruin your confidence. That's the most important thing, and that's the most important thing keeps me going.
Wow. So it's this insight, which I think now you learned, right? Because you've been within an institution for some time. You see how they do the hiring internally, and you have been a part of this process, or you were a part of this process at one point in time. So I think that's a really important point for our listeners, for anyone struggling with feelings of rejection, this demoralization of not hearing back from institutions in which you apply to, and understanding that on the back end, they may not actively truly be looking at the resumes being submitted for these roles, right? Which is generally why Peter and I typically advise that 80% of an individual's time in a job search is spent networking, so that way they can get the in from someone who's referred in, or at least get the insight as it relates to, hey, I saw this open role. Oh, well, that one's already filled. Or actually, you'd be a good fit, and I know the hiring manager. Let me help you get to the front of the line for that. But that's a really fair point, Dongchen, and I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, sorry. I also want to stress this out. It is not your fault if you're not hearing back from the companies. It is their fault. Because I think for every candidate deserve an answer, whether it is no or it is yes, and whether you're just automatically rejecting them or not, they deserve an answer. So if you're not getting one, it's not your fault. And you didn't do anything wrong. It's a company's fault. Companies should have at least give you an answer to show that they respect your time.
Tell them, preach. Any recruiters here? Any recruiters here who aren't getting back to candidates? Look out.
Dongchen, I'm wondering, so amongst all of your applications, and along with all the applications you were doing, you were also engaging with Eli and me, right? You were making appointments with both of us separately, and there were even a couple of instances where we worked with you together doing some mock interviews, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, throughout that whole process, whether it was some of the strategies and techniques that you learned directly from us, or whether it's something you learned throughout your job search and that you now recognize as valid. What would be a few things that you could share with our viewers that you've learned along the way? Aside from not giving up, and aside from, the reasons why employers post jobs and so on. But what have you learned on the job search side, like your skills?
I think at that time I was really lucky because, as you said, I'm one of the few, a very small population of students engaged with you and Eli. So at that time, I didn't really struggle to get appointments because you guys are not that busy. Sorry to say that, but you know what I mean. You guys are not that busy, and I probably can get an appointment in like 2 or 3 days' time. And one thing I learned is your enthusiasm goes really long way. This doesn't really only apply for graduate job search. It's also apply for like different experience hire, because you have to show the company, you have to show your employer that you care. You want to know about their culture. You care about what they're doing. You're interested in the job. And when you interview, you just actively engaging with people. You make eye contact, and whether it is a Zoom interview or not, you're free from disruption or something. Is that the word to use? Distraction? Yes. Yeah. You're free from distractions, and you're just really focused on getting this done. And body language, eye contacts, they're like very important. It shows the way that you're engaging with a person. And also do research about the company, do research about the role, and just know what you're talking about. Because the worst thing is you went in an interview and you really don't know the job description.
I remember when we worked with you on a mock interview and you put together a presentation.
Yeah.
Right? Can you talk more about how you prepared to put that presentation together? I think this has a lot to do with your research, but it'd be interesting to hear specifically how you came up with your ideas and how you kind of step by step, how you put this really impressive package together.
I think this is what I'm really thankful about Holt, is I got all those soft skills developed in Holt, like how to do a presentation and how to make beautiful slides and how to work through from the question to the answer, and do a lot of research online and ask people and reading a lot of online blogs and gathering evidence and put all the evidence, consolidate them and into one piece of answer, and then post into like a very beautiful PowerPoint slides and start to deliver this. And is basically what I'm doing at the moment as well, but mainly I'm gathering data and analyze data and get data to tell a story.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's a lot of work, right? That's a lot of work. And for anyone who's listening, who's like, oh, I really want this job, I'll do anything. It's like, how much will you actually do? You say anything, but how much will you actually do? And that's what I love about Dongchen's story, is that it's not just scratching the surface of what needs to be done. It's going the depths necessary in order to do the utmost preparation, right? And Dongchen, I'm going to lean into one of my favorite stories here, but why don't you tell us a little bit about how you dealt with competition in those settings, right? Because when you were interviewing, it wasn't just like, ideally it should just be us interviewing for the company and always trying to show our authentic self, but in a lot of cases we're interviewing against other candidates, right? And in your case, there may or may not have been other candidates who were authorized to work in the UK, and yet you were chosen. So maybe you can just kind of share a little bit about your narrative on how you felt dealing with this competition and how you actually dealt with the competition.
For my last round interview with BDO was assessment center, where I compete with other 7 candidates actually. So 8 of us in total. And of course, other 7s are all white male. That's it. That's usual for finding a job in the UK, especially in technology. And I didn't really think that much, because at that time I was not really aware of this sort of situation. And I'm only aware that I'm probably the only person in the room needs work authorization, and I need to be in a different level to be able to get the job. That's something that always struck me, because I can't compete myself with average local because if I'm the same with them, I wouldn't get a job opportunity because the company has to go to an extra mile to get work authorization for me. So I just always prepare one step more because I can't control what they do. They probably have a very good education background. They probably went to Eton or went to Oxford, and I don't. I didn't, and I will never be. And this is something I can't change. But what I can change is how much I prepare for the interview, is how much I care, is how much work I'm ready to put in for this process. And I think that's what made me stand out among my peers, because I just can, or I always want to go for an extra mile to do what I want to do.
Yeah, that feels good. That's like, that's exactly what we want all of our clients to, the type of effort we'd love to see, right? It's that desire. I wish we could teach it, but I don't think we can, Peter. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, Dongchen, clearly, I would imagine you had maybe some doubts or some limiting beliefs of some sort throughout the process, but somehow you had the confidence in yourself to push through and to prepare because you care and whatnot, right? I do think it's difficult to teach. I think there are some things that we can encourage job seekers to do from a kind of a trial and error and, a learning perspective, because we, as coaches, we kind of tend to know what works. We give our clients nudges in certain directions. And sometimes we have to nudge them in a direction where we know they're going to fail so that they can learn. Right.
Yeah.
I think, Dongchen, you pushed yourself. I mean, we didn't have to push you that hard. We were just there for you to support you. But there's something inside of you. You're very self-driven. I would love to know where you get that from, but you're very, very self-driven. You're a very confident person. Is there something in your story that has developed this sense of confidence?
I think what I'm about to say, you guys will probably disagree with, but it is just something that I feel about myself. If I'm saying I'm a confident person, I'll be lying to you. I'm not confident at all. I have a lot of self-doubt, and I self-talk a lot that you can't do this and you're not good enough. No company will want to hire you. And also personally, I have been through a lot of self-help and a lot of cognitive behavior therapy to just correct my confidence, because I actually don't have any. I think the reason why I always over-prepare is because if I over-prepare, I will be more confident. I'll be more confident than I used to be, which probably will just appear as I'm super confident, I know what I'm talking about, but it's just fake it till you make it.
So this is what I love about your story, right? I mean, number one, first and foremost, you are such an authentic person, and you've just shared with us a very vulnerable part about who you are. But you also are very self-aware, and you were able to take that self-awareness and build a strategy around it to help you elevate yourself. And I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah, we are just human, because sometimes it's easier for us to say I'm perfect, but I'm not perfect. And you just will identify several weaknesses, and sometimes I will just accept I'm just this type of person and I will never change. And sometimes I will be like, okay, I might need to find a strategy or might need to find a workaround to overcome my weakness, or to at least hide it in interviews.
Yeah, that self-awareness is key, right? Because if we can't challenge ourselves to grow, then we just accept who we are in those situations. And had you accepted this, what your inner critic was telling you, hey, you're not enough here, or you're not going to be able to get this, or no one's ever going to hire you, without pushing against and over preparing in order to quiet that voice, or at least give yourself some type of workaround solution, we wouldn't be here having this conversation today. All right.
Yeah, I think, every time when I have the self-talk, nobody will want to hire you, you are not hireable or you are not employable. And I would just always find an example to prove myself that I'm wrong. So if I have that sort of self-talk, I'll be like, I have a job now, which means somebody hired me 5 years ago.
And I'm sure that you can continue to add to that bank of evidence from other episodes in your life, right?
Yes, totally.
I'm sure. I mean, my goodness, how many? Just from knowing you, I know that if you took the time to reflect on your past, you would be able to add to that bank with thoughtful diligence, for sure. But I think that's a brilliant strategy, right? It helps to, it does help on the confidence side, right?
Yeah, it helps a lot to build or rebuild the confidence, if that makes sense. Because I honestly don't think anyone in the world is truly confident all the time.
That's a very fair statement.
Yeah, but there might be people who is super confident all the time. I do admire them a lot, I have to say that. But I don't think anyone is confident all the time. So don't be, for the audience here, don't be put down or don't compare yourself with others a lot. So let's say Eli is always confident about himself, and he might have different ways to fake that confidence. I'm sorry to use that word. Or he might have different ways to look that he's confident. He might not be confident in certain areas, and that's not something the client or the audience will see. And just trying to not focus on other people who are so confident, even if that makes sense.
It does, and unfortunately, that's the culture we live in, isn't it?
I quite not enjoy it that much, because we always compare ourselves to each other, from how much we earn, from which school we graduate from, to how big your house is and how beautiful your house is. Just not quite enjoying that, because it just take away the happiness of what you already have.
Yeah, and most of the time there's so much underlying that, right? People will post, "Oh, I finally achieved my goal of working for Amazon, Google, list the FANG company here," or on Facebook, it's look at this miraculous experience that I'm having in Bali, or something else. So this is just a snapshot, right? A very quick snapshot of a success or something relevant that people want to share. Yet there are so many moments that are not shared by these individuals through social platforms, which all of us are scrolling every day, just looking at the highlight reels from individuals' days, and then using this as a comparative piece. Well, you're a data analyst, right? Dongchen, tell me if that is an effective way to analyze data and compare yourself, right?
No. I graduated at Holt in 2016, and because I found a job immediately after graduation, I appeared a lot in the promotion videos from Holt, and also I did a lot of promotion video for BDO, for my current employer. And people just think I'm super lucky, or I'm just really the one to find a job, to super lucky to stay in the country. And people just think everything is so easy for me. But no, it's not. People who went through the journey with me knows it's not an easy ride. And that's just a perfect example. That's just what people can see is the bright side of your life, and it's not always like that. And don't compare your dark side to other people's bright side. That will not do you any good, apart from damage your mental health.
Man, that's some powerful. Do not compare your dark side to other people's bright sides, and that's literally what we do all the day. And we're no wonder we're having such a mental health crisis, me included. Right? We all actively are going through our own challenges and resolving a lot of these doing the inner work to continue to grow and develop as humans, as well as professionals, as well as all these other things that we aspire to become in this life. Dongchen, let's, we don't want to drag this on. We know that you're busy, and we do appreciate your time. But I suppose if there are any last tidbits of advice that you would like to share with our audience outside of the gems that you already threw their way, what are some of the key pieces of advice you'd like to leave us with?
Always believe yourself, and always have a goal in mind that you can achieve this. So you believe yourself that you can achieve something, and you can just always work toward that goal. And of course, in the meantime, you will seeking help from professionals, such as if looking for a job, I will hopefully have the help from you and from Eli and Peter. And during the process, just try to get engaged with other people, try to go out and network, although we can't at the moment, I know, but yeah, just always believe you can do this and seek for help when you need it, whether it is from professionals or whether it is just you are going through when you're going through the process, trying to get more insight from people as more insights from people so you can make like an informative decision. And I also for graduate, I don't think there's ever a job called a bad job, because it is a job that help you to start somewhere. And when you don't have any work experience, don't afraid to get your hand dirty, because it's the only way you will learn in the professional world, because it's very different than what we had in school.
Great gems being dropped. For all of our listeners out there, we hope that you're able to really take away some very important lessons here based on Dongchen's experience in navigating a international career transition from China to the UK whilst completing her bachelor's degree in the UK. It's always inspiring to hear your story, Dongchen. I know Peter and I look fondly upon the time that we had in supporting you through what was a very perilous and challenging experience. Yes, there's a happy ending, like you said, a really happy ending, an ending that is leading to you now being 5 years employed and getting your, what's it called again? The leave to remain?
Yeah, indefinite leave to remain.
Indefinite leave to remain, right? And it is very easy for people to just kind of look at this story and say, wow, anything is possible. And, it seems like it worked out for Dongchen. It shouldn't be that hard. But really, at the basis of all that is determination. It's hard work. It's, challenging your inner critic when it comes up. It's proving yourself wrong in those moments, and continuing to push forward in ways that constantly challenge you to move forward towards this purposeful career path, right? And not being afraid to get your hands dirty, like you said, and really, really just being open, being truly open to learning from others, asking for help along the way, and putting in the work once that help is received in order to achieve this desired outcome, which ultimately will lead to a full-time job, and in your case, a job with work authorization that leads to a pretty interesting and fruitful new life.
Thank you.
And the last thing I want to add, aside from, of course, the inspiration that Coach Eli and I received from seeing your journey, and we couldn't be prouder, let's put it that way. But I also want to add that, the gems that you shared today and that Eli has just summarized very nicely, these are not just applicable for young professionals coming out of an undergraduate program, or even coming out of an MBA, for sure. But Eli and I have both worked with more senior professionals, and these exact same gems of wisdom apply throughout your entire career. Right? The tenacity, the resilience, the research, the networking, the not comparing yourself to other people. All of this stuff is going to apply all the way through your entire career. So Dongchen, just keep it up, keep developing those skill sets, and we can't see what else the future has in store for you.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of both of you.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us on this episode of Breaking Bad Careers. We hope that you found as much inspiration as we always find when we speak with Dongchen. And Peter and I are always open to having conversations with individuals who are experiencing career challenges. You know, like Dongchen said, don't be afraid to ask for help. So if you wanted, you can always navigate to www.yourcareerstrategy.com. Right? And from there, you can basically just book a free coaching and discovery call with us. It's a 45-minute call, no obligation. All you have to do is show up and we could talk shop, learn about whatever challenge it is that's at top of mind. And if we feel that we can continue to support you outside of that, we'll let you know how we can work together. But really, our main goal is to provide added value right on the spot. So
perfect. Well said. And just a brief reminder that our mission is really to impact the lives of millions. And that's why we offer these free discovery calls. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. We're here to support you.
All right. Well, until the next episode, we'll see you all soon, and we look forward to supporting you all in Breaking Bad Careers.
Right on. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dongchen. Take care of yourself.
Bye.